Hello, glad you can join us for this interview today. Today we have a number of different people, and the topic we are focusing on is Lent. Lent is right around the corner, and for some people, it's something they do every single year and participate in every year. For some people, it's a brand new thing, and for some people, maybe you've just heard of it right now. I kind of doubt that's the case. But anyway, so these are all people that have either done things for Lent in the past, or people that will be taking on something for Lent coming up this season. And so basically what we're doing with Lent is we're taking the 40 days leading up to Easter. We're taking those days leading up to Jesus' crucifixion, and we are focusing our hearts and minds onto Jesus. We're denying ourselves, maybe like Jesus denied himself when he was tempted in the desert. And in all these things, our goal is to focus ourselves on who Jesus is. And so I'm going to be asking people for their input on what they have done for Lent, what difference that made, or what things they'll be doing, and what they're hoping to see happen within that. So we'll start with Steffi. Hello, Steffi.
Hello.
What is something that you're looking towards doing this year for Lent?
Yeah, I've decided to try to fast from social media and hopefully Netflix as well. Usually Netflix specifically watching by myself. So hoping I don't mind watching with people, but I want to spend a little less time on TV when I'm alone doing other things.
All right, very good. And so in doing that, like what's I mean, there's a goal of like, oh, I want to get something kind of in order or corral something. What are you hoping to do in doing that?
I think I'm hoping that a bit of a fast or a break from some of like my mental stimulation I feel like I'm kind of constantly drawn to will hopefully, I guess, provide me maybe a little bit more like relaxed demeanor and just kind of slow my brain down a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. Ben, let's go with you. Ben, what's something that you've given up in the past for Lent, and how did that go?
Yeah, so I I was similar to Steffi, although I gave up just Facebook a few years ago. And so my whole thing was that I just wanted to stop going to Facebook every 5 minutes while I'm on my computer. And this was specifically while I was at school in the library trying to study. I didn't want to study, so then what I would do is I'd go over to Facebook. But then after you do that a couple times, you realize Facebook hasn't changed over the 10-15 minute span that you've looked at it. And you're just like, this is just a time suck and all that other stuff that goes on with Facebook. And I just want to be able to do my studying and ignore Facebook and, get on with productivity. So that's what I did. And I blocked Facebook from all of my devices, deleted the app, and then tried to see how it went. So
and how did it go? How did it go?
So I've tried it multiple times. I think I succeeded once. And that was once I was like in my third or fourth year of university. So I was much more mature, I guess you could say. But it was really good. And I actually started to keep up with it after Lent. I was like, you know what? It's beneficial to kind of limit my social, this social media. And so I tried to keep Facebook to a minimum. And it's been really good. I enjoy not going on Facebook as much. So.
That's good. It is always amazing when we decide to discipline ourselves and give something up. Sometimes we don't know how we're going to do with it, but then we find out we don't miss it. And it's amazing that something that can take up so much space and so much occupy our lives so much it's like, oh, well, I'm okay. I can do this. And it doesn't have the same foothold it had before. Carol, how about you? What's something that you've done before for Lent?
For a number of years, I've done a soup fast. So not a full fast, but I recognized that I could get into really unhealthy eating patterns. Living by myself is really easy for me to stop and get fast food or stock up on pre-processed food rather than cook from scratch. And so I wanted to change my diet and improve that a little bit and eat food that actually God has grown. And so I decided to eat just soup for lunch and dinner and try to make most of those soups right from scratch. So it slowed me down and put healthier food in my body. And one of the other things that I did with it was I always gave a portion of the soup that I made away to somebody. Because another thing that I tend to struggle with is trusting that I will have enough money for, to keep a roof over my head and to keep food on my table. And in reality, that I've never, ever been in a place where I haven't had enough to eat or a place to live. And so it was this like physical practice of like, Lord, yes, I believe you have always been faithful, and I believe you will continue to be faithful. And so here is, I will give a portion away of what you've given to me, out of worship and trust and belief in that.
Mhm. That's great. That's awesome. I love that theme of it's working on trust, right? That whole idea of Sabbath, or that we trust that God provides, and so we can take time away or do something different because God's the one that provides for us. That's excellent. Cara, let's hear from you. What have you done before that you've appreciated during Lent?
Yeah, for every day of Lent, I took a piece of paper and put an item of prayer on the top, and then I would block out an hour each day and spend time praying for that item by filling out that paper with the prayer that I did. So yeah, that was really good for just having that focused prayer time.
Mm-hmm. And did it ever feel like it became tedious doing that, or did it feel like something that could flow quite easily as you did it?
I actually ended up really liking it, so I've done a lot more written prayers going forward. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I found out I really do like to write, so
That's great. That's really good. That's excellent. I know for someone like me, that's helpful too, because I find if I was to spend a lot of time in prayer, my brain just goes everywhere. And so writing, that goes a long way for someone like me. So thank you for sharing that. And Anna, let's hear from you. What are your thoughts on what you're going to be doing this year for Lent?
So I recently had someone in the chapel where I'm working talk about how they keep struggling with their addiction. And so for me, Lent this year, we'll be spending some time in solidarity with them. I said, let's try for 40 days. Let's see what God will do in this circumstance. And so bringing the focus back to God. I struggle with fasting from food. My health won't allow for it. I struggle with just committing to it. So this for me seemed like the way I wanted to get back to praying. And so my lunch hours will be spent praying for this fellow at the jail, but also for others who are struggling through addiction and within the correctional system.
Mm.
So that's where I'm at the moment.
That's great. And it's great to do this with someone to go through this with another person. I think a lot of times we see this as an individual activity, and to be in solidarity with someone else is a really excellent thing. I know for myself, there's a couple of books I'll be reading. There's a lot of books out there, believe it or not, that are based on 40 days. Like, they're basically built for Lent. And so this one's called 40 Days of Living the Jesus Creed by Scott McKnight. And so it's got a reading for every day. And so I'm going to take the time to read that every day. And I find that focusing on something specific or a specific resource that focuses me on God, I find that's a very helpful thing at times, something I can do repeatedly with consistency. And it's not a big book, and it takes 40 days to read it. And so the thing with that is sometimes we think we have to do something huge or grand. And if we just can do something simple that we can repeat as a habit, that can go a very long way. My most memorable time I ever had taking part in Lent was when I gave up coffee for Lent. And I remember driving somewhere and just feeling wiped out and exhausted with no energy. And it forced me to pray, God, help. And so instead of relying on caffeine energy like I always did, it really actually refocused me on God and relying on God's strength and God's power. And so as we do these habits, we really want in the end, we want to be able to make space for God, like whether it's by clearing out different clutter we have on Netflix, or clearing out clutter we have on Facebook or other things. It could be healthy habits we want to take on. It could just be something that focuses us Godward. It could be giving something up or taking something on, whatever it is. It's just some way that we can do something simple and repeatable and focus our hearts and minds on Christ. So we'd like to invite you as a church to join us in this, if that's something you would like to do. But we also know that God speaks in a variety of ways, and there's going to be different things that connect with people, and more so than others. And so the invitation's out there. If you want to take the next 40 days leading up to Easter to refocus on some habit, to eliminate something, this is a great time to do it. And it's a great time to be able to share stories of doing that with other people as well. And also, I'll let everyone in on a secret. God forgives. So if we try and if we fail, I'm pretty sure we're still all right. All right. You don't have to feel like you failed God or something. This is just an attempt to see how this goes. So, all right. Well, thank you again for meeting with us today. And God bless everyone as we take part in Lent together.